So I'm the type of person who likes stepping out of my comfort zone when it comes to various media from time to time. I'll play, watch, or read anything. This even applies to titles from genres I typically don't care for. I'm still willing to give them at least a try. I feel like it's been a while since I've done just that, so for this anime review, I'll be stepping out of my comfort zone a bit as I check out the magical girl anime, Flip Flappers. This is the 6th installment of the Reddit Made Me Watch This series. Several months ago, the Reddit anime community came together and created a list of 100 underrated anime. Since I love searching for and watching these hidden gems, the list obviously intrigued me. Now I'm slowly progressing through each of the titles and stating whether or not I think they are deserving of the title of underrated. In order to be considered underrated, the anime needs at least a 7.5 out of 10 rating. The previous 5 anime I watched for this series have been about as good as you could hope for, with Red's record currently standing at 2 and 3. This makes Red's overall record 12 and 11, including everything watched before the start of the series. I decided to watch something from the Magical Girl section since that's one I'm unfamiliar with, and Flip Flappers was the selection that interested me the most. Magical Girl genre isn't something I watched, nor has it really ever interested me. Now, to be fair, it shouldn't since I'm not the target audience for it, but that doesn't mean that I can't watch them and I won't enjoy them. You never know if you'll like something until you give it a fair chance, and that's what I'm doing here. Before watching Flip Flappers, I watched a grand total of 1 Magical Girl anime, and yeah, Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka wasn't good. Now, to be fair, the show isn't very well received by the public either, so it's not like this is a great representation of Magical Girl anime. Let's look on the bright side though. Despite it being horrible, it was worth checking out for this one scene in particular.
I said I won't kill you, you stupid bitch!
Going into Flip Flappers, I had absolutely no idea what to expect from it, but assumed that it'd easily be better than Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka. I mean, the bar is basically as low as it can be, so it's not going to be difficult to achieve that. So will Flip Flappers be considered underrated and change my opinion on Magical Girl anime, perhaps making me interested in more of them? Or will Reddit be wrong yet again, making its record go back to 500? I will say that going into it, I was not expecting the wild, chaotic, and crazy stuff that happens within Flip Flappers. Flip Flappers is a wildly creative show that follows 2 young girls, Coconut and Paprika, and their adventures throughout Pure Illusion, which is this weird alternate dimension. These girls are polar opposites personality-wise to one another, with Coconut being serious, reserved, and indecisive, while Paprika is energetic and loud, but knows what she wants. Within Pure Illusion, Coconut and Paprika can transform into magical girls via the phrase as they fight monsters, rivals, and the clan while they carry out their job collecting shards. The duo are thrown into various different worlds filled with references to other things, making each episode a completely new experience. While on an adventure, some examples of worlds they are transported into are a Mad Max themed world, then the next one being something out of a horror book, and then the next a Power Rangers-esque one. Coconut and Paprika experience highs and lows along their journey as their friendship grows throughout it. While the anime Flip Flappers is a story of adventure, it is also a story of learning about yourself. Namely, Coconut is the one who does that, thanks to Paprika's outgoingness, helping her in doing so. Flip Flappers is a wild ride in more ways than one. There's never a dull moment in the story since it is visually stunning, creative, and fun to watch overall. Crazy stuff is always happening, keeping you entertained, and throughout the story you'll question what exactly is going on. I did not like the beginning of Flip Flappers. Visually, those episodes were solid, but nothing else up until that point was good in my opinion. You were just thrown into the story at the beginning with little to no introduction or build up. You are given very little detail about the world and the characters within it, and don't get any kind of answers until the very end of the series, which is frustrating. Dr. Salt was the sole reason why I continued watching Flip Flappers past the first 2 episodes. With Salt, there was an air of mystery surrounding him, which made him interesting to me. He gave off a vibe similar to Gendo Ikari, but far less harsh in nature. This made me want to learn more about him and his intentions because he seemed important for the future of the show, and he was. I guess I should thank him because despite the fact that Salt was only shown for about 30 seconds total in those 2 episodes, I continued watching solely because of him and was able to enjoy Flip Flappers' incredible creativity because of it. Episode 3 was my favorite episode, which was a giant Mad Max reference. Not only was it entertaining, it was visually stunning. From then onwards, my enjoyment for Flip Flappers increased from episode to episode, as I better understood the direction it was going. It went from a show I wanted to drop, which is a rarity for me to even consider, to one I wanted to see through to the end, enjoying it since I never knew what exactly was in store for me. The problem is that Flip Flappers tries to have its visuals and emotional ending carry the series, but the story and characters drag it down in my opinion. I think the entire cast of characters lacked the necessary depth and complexity for this show to work overall, but even more so when talking about the two main characters, Paprika and Kokona. They were lackluster overall, not being as enjoyable as they could have been. Don't get me wrong, they aren't horrible, but they are most definitely not anything special, both lacking depth. The girls' contrasting personalities were decent at the beginning, Kokona being more negative, uninterested, and uncertain of everything, while Paprika was positive and upbeat, always wanting to explore while also trying to get the most out of Kokona. At the beginning, Paprika was fine, being the driving force of the anime, forcing Kokona to go into pure illusion and to come out of her dull, listless shell. But eventually, she became extremely annoying to me. I swear half of Paprika's dialogue throughout the show was Kokona, Kokona, Kokona! Her yelling at Kokona. It became painful to hear her shout Kokona's name, especially so often. As for Kokona, this anime is a journey of self-discovery, but instead of feeling like an actual person, she feels more like a plot device to be used by others and to further the mystery of the story. It seemed like she was forgotten by the show's creators and lacked any kind of depth. The star of the show for me is easily Yayaka, with Salt being a close second. It's disappointing when Yayaka's character arc completion was completely tossed aside in favor of Paprika. As for the story, like I said earlier, you're just thrown into it at the beginning with little to no introduction and don't get any kind of answers to many different questions until the very end of the series, which is frustrating. I sat waiting for something in the story to be explained, but was fed cliffhangers and minuscule tidbits of information that was not nearly enough for me. Who is Mimi? What is Mr. Salt doing? What is the Shadowy organization's end goal? What is pure illusion? And what is Paprika's wish? Now, most of these questions aren't difficult to deduce, and they're answered. However, I wanted some type of answer to them, or at least more information about them scattered throughout the story. The problem is that the rest of the story, namely those questions I just talked about that fill in the rest of the gaps, felt like they were completely forgotten, never really being built up. The crazy, nonsensical adventures are. Throughout Flip Flappers, much of the story is shown, not told to us. So the last couple of episodes, which are almost exclusively exposition dumps that are explained to us, felt weird and out of place. Those answers and their execution wasn't the greatest either. I get it, the focus is more so about the adventures Kokona and Paprika have, their blooming relationship, and Kokona's self-discovery, but all of these problems could have been avoided if just some of those questions were slowly answered throughout it, instead of leaving them all for the end. The randomness and unpredictability from the beginning of the show, which is a strength for Flip Flappers, is no more by the end, with everything becoming much more predictable. The pacing of those last couple of episodes was extremely rushed due to the fact that so much needed to be both said and done. Overall, it felt like the story was secondary to and sacrificed for other aspects like the vibes, animation, and art. Flip Flappers was the most enjoyable for me when Kokona and Paprika were on these chaotic adventures having fun, not taking the overall story too seriously. When it tried becoming more serious with the story, it became rushed and not that great. If I turn off my brain and not pay attention to the story, Flip Flappers is fun. If I start thinking about the basic story and how it's done, that is when it gets into trouble. In Flip Flappers' defense, I do think the series suffers a bit from only having 13 episodes. If it was given more, maybe just 24 in total, I have no doubt in my mind that my critiques or complaints, as other people who really enjoy the show are going to point out, would have been resolved. This idea suffers from a time constraint, jam-packing so much into a small amount of episodes. Sometimes less is more. For me, Flip Flappers started off poorly, bounces back well through the middle, and ends on a disappointing note as a whole. If I turn my brain off, I enjoyed Flip Flappers for the phenomenal art, creativity, and animation, but those can only take the series so far when other elements like the story and character development could have been executed better. The best word to summarize Flip Flappers is disappointing, since it could have been something special. Flip Flappers was a mixed bag overall. Is it horrible? No, but I wouldn't say that it's good either. Did I enjoy it? Kinda, so I give it a rating deserving of that middle ground, a 5.75 out of 10. There's definitely more that could be analyzed here, especially in depth, but this show just didn't grip me as much as it does for others. At least for this series, I understand why people enjoyed it and put it on the underrated list, but for me, I don't agree that Flip Flappers is an underrated gem. This updates Reddit's record to 2-4 for new shows and 12-12 overall record for the series. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.